Every single time that JD Vance opens his mouth, he makes his own situation much worse, and today was no different. He hit a new low while speaking in Michigan after he accused Democratic VP pick Tim Walz of stolen valor, saying that Tim Walz never held a rifle and claiming that he never even stepped foot in the battlefield. Now, these are disgusting, disingenuous, and unfounded lies, and JD Vance actually got fact-checked right after. He then went viral for answering a question like an alien in the most awkward way possible. I want to break this all down. Make sure you leave a like on the video. Now, here's the first clip of JD Vance struggling to find a way to attack Tim Walz because Walz is such a cool dude, but JD Vance goes for the lowest blow possible. Take a look and then we'll debunk it.
Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
Okay, one, he didn't lie about his military service. Number two, we're not criticizing JD Vance for just getting an Ivy League education. We're criticizing him for turning his back on his roots and criticizing the very schools that he built his career off of. Number three, he says, do not pretend to be something you're not. That is rich coming from the dude that completely flipped his personality to suck up to Donald Trump. He described himself as a never Trump guy. He said that Trump might be America's Hitler. Now he has completely rewired the way he thinks so he can be a MAGA sycophant. And finally, Alexander S. Vindman, a veteran and reporter, decided to compare the records of JD Vance and Tim Walz, and it is great. He wrote, Vance enlisted and served 4 years, including 6 months in Iraq in 2005 as a reporter with a public affairs section of a Marine aircraft wing. Walz, on the other hand, and listen to this because it's great, served 24 years, earning 8 promotions and ending as a command sergeant major, the highest NCO position. I don't think JD wants to compare records, but if he insists, writes Alexander S. Vindman, what he's saying is that JD Vance's record is blown out by Tim Walz. And also, the irony of JD Vance accusing Tim Walz of stolen valor or saying that he walked away from his duties when JD Vance sucks up to Mr. Bonespurs himself just blows my mind, but I guess they aren't smart enough to see the hypocrisy. Now, I want to show you this clip of JD Vance acting like an alien when he's asked about beer, but first, watch CNN rip into him for these veteran comments, rightfully so.
Well, we have to expect a vicious, constant string of utterly dishonest hogwash attacks. The reality is that Trump, candidate Bonespurs, who escaped his own service and then described avoiding sexually transmitted diseases as his personal Vietnam. This is someone who's in a glass house trying to throw stones through the wall. At the same time, Tim Walz served for 24 years, and then he was elected to Congress in 2006 and has been a champion for veterans and for the armed services. Vice President Harris worked with President Biden to pass the PACT Act, the biggest increase in support for veterans benefits in decades.
He also didn't even mention the numerous nasty things that Donald Trump has said about veterans that have been confirmed by people who were his allies at one point. I really cannot wait to see the favorability ratings of Tim Walz come out because I know for a fact they are going to be way, way higher than JD Vance's. JD Vance has lower favorability ratings than Sarah Palin had. I didn't know that was possible, and it's probably because he is a weirdo and he can't answer questions like a normal human being. So in this clip, for example, he's asked about the old political adage, I would only vote for someone if I could have a beer with them. People say something to that effect all the time, and in response, he gives a weird alien laugh and just says, I like beer, I like to drink beer. It's the weirdest answer ever. I'll break it down.
Old saying in politics that what can swing undecided voters in a place like Wisconsin is whether you seem like somebody they would like to have a beer with.
Yeah.
Why would people in Wisconsin want to have a beer with you?
Well, I guess they
They'd want to have a beer with me because I actually do like to drink beer, and
They want to have a beer with me because I actually do like to drink beer. I'm just a totally normal human being with a wife and kids. I'm totally not a murderer behind the scenes. Every time he answers a question about how normal he is, it makes me more suspicious about him not actually being normal. He seems like a shell of a human being that just does whatever Donald Trump asks him to do. I mean, earlier today, he was asked a question, what makes you happy in life? Why are you always so serious? This was a layup answer for JD Vance. You say, my family makes me happy. My dog makes me happy. Seeing other people happy makes me happy. In response, though, he decides to lash out at the media in the most Trumpian fashion by saying, it makes me happy when I don't have to answer bogus questions from people like you. It is just the most transparent ruse ever. He is trying to act like a mini Trump when he's probably, in reality, like 8 years ago, he probably would have answered that question very differently. I think the JD Vance of 2015 would have said, my family makes me happy. Here we have an article that reads, uncovered texts reveal lengthy conversations between JD Vance and Holocaust denier. Vance's Spock says he, quote, usually ignored messages from Holocaust denier Johnson, but discussed Ukraine a lot and said terrible things about Ukraine. Donald Trump's running mate texted extensively with a right-wing activist known for spreading fabricated smear campaigns against Democrats and even denying the atrocities of the Holocaust during a Reddit AMA. JD Vance and Charles Chuck Johnson conversed about a wide range of subjects according to text messages obtained by the Washington Post, including the war in Ukraine, UFOs, U.S.-Israel policy, and Jeffrey Epstein. The conversation occurred over the encrypted messaging app Signal. The texts were provided to the Post by Johnson as Vance seeks the vice presidency on the Republican 2024 ticket. A spokesperson for the Ohio senator confirmed the validity of the text, but claimed to the Post that Johnson, quote, spam texted Vance and that the senator only responded to push back against Johnson's wilder claims. Quote, JD usually ignored him, but occasionally responded to push back. Yeah, right. That is just a total lie. But the examples published by the Post do not only show moments of disagreement between the men. Vance can also be seen soliciting Johnson's opinion on various topics while making admissions and other remarks of his own seemingly aimed at impressing the far-right conservative activists. Quote, dude, I won't even take calls from Ukraine, Vance wrote in October of 2023 in one text obtained by the Post. Quote, two very senior guys reached out to me, the head of their intel, the head of the Air Force, bitching about F-16s. That is exactly what I want to hear from a senator that is supposed to be representing the will of the American people, that is supposed to be representing his constituents. I don't live in Ohio, but I just love to hear senators completely pushing aside Ukraine and the global threat of Russia. Makes me feel totally safe. No, but in reality, no sarcasm, this is absolutely disgusting. Ukraine needs help. Ukraine needs aid because an authoritarian threat is currently encroaching on their territory, and people like JD Vance, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, they are doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin when they ignore calls from people in the Air Force, when they ignore help or calls for help from Ukrainian citizens. In other moments, though, Johnson could be seen badgering the senator over his connections to donors such as Sheldon Adelson and his former law professor Amy Chua, as well as his political positions. Vance clearly grows irritated with Johnson in one exchange obtained by the Post. Quote, stop sending me weird messages. I find your threatening tone enraging. I think we all have a political friend like that spams you with weird political stuff. Either way, if you enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button. I love having you guys here as a part of this awesome community as we head into this high stakes election. So make sure you're subscribed and a part of this community. Most importantly, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.